I'm in the school board. I'm in the school board. We don't have another table.
The back one.
Oh, I prefer cake.
I don't know what it is, but Mike did for the last 3 hours.
This year I just itching my chemistry because they needed something.
It started decision. Is that right?
So now so
Bringing it all up. Yeah, she could.
So nobody is smarter than me.
So what were you just making a square? Okay.
I don't know. I mean, because I'm third grade and still just beginning. It's almost like the old school.
Okay. They can be seen. Yeah.
Just a sec.
And is Terry coming?
Want to have you up
Want to
for
step
the-
ready, guys?
Yeah. Do you know if anybody else is coming from the board?
I don't think Mike is. I think he's working. Terry's gonna Zoom. He's up north. I don't know about the other two. I haven't heard. So
Well, we'll get more.
probably just us two this time.
Okay, that's a bit.
Yeah. Come on. Sit and join the conversation when it gets to it.
All right. Very good.
I have a question that's for, I guess, either or both.
Yeah.
In the hot seat
Well,
here.
actually, you know, you're doing both things, but, Charlotte and I would get so that they, we used to ask Ray, so if we could move up.
No,
because
I'm good.
when we have
No, I'm
this
fine.
configuration,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's really hard to hear behind these speakers. You know, these supposed to be hard
Yeah,
to be here from, to hear from
Yeah,
behind.
that's fine.
Is so to push
Just so it
the
doesn't
table
fall
up more
apart.
toward that table, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, very.
We have a microphone that people can use too.
I
We
know,
did
but-
get them working last time.
I know, but it's just, if it's okay with you, I'll just, and if it's not a good spot, text
Well,
me.
these are actually not.
You're gonna see Terry. I think you're only gonna see Dennis on it, so.
Yeah, you're only gonna, well, I can see Terry.
Right.
So if I use my computer, I won't see Terry.
If you zoom in, you can, yes. The only problem is you'll have to mute it so that we're not getting feedback.
Oh,
that
geez, yeah.
I don't need to.
Yeah, I would.
This is why this type of situation, it doesn't work well. When you're doing hybrid meetings, you kind of have a
We had the same problem.
big screen and use that, and we can make it work, it's just.
Think about the teachers, the Wisconsin teachers. They have a classroom and they're Zooming all the other kids at home.
Yeah, it can work, so. Hey, Terry.
Hi, sorry, I'm on vacation, but hey, Michelle. I'm trying to go on vacation and it's not working.
I go on the 17th, we leave for
Oh,
camp,
she's
and I'm
doing
going, shut down for everybody.
Yeah.
I tried that last Thursday and it didn't work Friday, and then I've been taking care of stuff all afternoon, so.
Yeah, I told my work, I said, I'm leaving, I'm leaving everybody else. And I go, I'm not doing Zoom meetings this year if I can't.
Yeah.
Hey, Michelle.
Yes,
Sarah has some paperwork she wants to send you. Can you put your email address in the chat box for me?
I can do that.
Thank you.
Somebody reset the clock?
I fixed
Yes.
it.
Whoa.
Put new battery in.
Why did you do that?
Yeah, it is.
It's almost on
It's
time.
pretty much correct.
Thank you.
And that's pretty
Oh,
up
thank
now.
you.
I'm just glad my internet's working. Wasn't working yesterday, and at 7:30, I flew up to Augusta before, I got up there 2 minutes before 8 to give this guy our darn modem, to give me a new one, because of the modem, after arguing with them since 10 in the morning, that it was not my routers, it was the modem. And I flew up there, got up there, just in time, and the guy was nice enough to switch it. I'm like, we switch this, please. Because he was like walking up, I'm like, go walk up, just can you, please just give me this, I just flew up here from Wisconsin, and I've got a meeting tomorrow and things to do. I need this, I need my internet back. And he was very nice and did it. I was like, thank you. Jerry, where are you going on vacation? Are you going to get camp?
I'm at the lake, right now, but I'm working from home. So I still have some positions and some things that I'm, working on.
Yeah.
Kim might be joining us on Zoom for a few minutes on her way home.
You're gonna phone in?
Yeah, she'll be on her way.
May I borrow the keys to get some water?
Yeah.
Could we get keys?
Yeah, they're in the vault, so the answer is no.
Thanks.
I tried to get them, but they'd already closed the vault, and I wasn't gonna be able to.
You're a TikTok is like, I don't know. It's the voices.
It's whatever's there. As soon as Terry gets back, we'll get going. And Kim will hopefully be here soon. She may be almost here.
You should be able to, but she works quite a ways away.
I should have asked if anybody else would like some.
I'm good, thank you. Cool.
Everywhere has this.
All right. Let's do this just because it's fun. Calling the workshop to order. We'll stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kim's signing on right now.
Oh, okay, good. Feedback from last time. Okay. We are recording this, so.
Turning mine down a little
Yeah,
bit,
good
but it
idea.
looks like we've got some feedback.
Okay. So first on the list, thank you two for joining us, and thank you Michelle and Terry for joining online. I really wanted to just get us going on the ad hoc committee that was approved by the voters. I have a handout. This is just to start the discussion. It's in no way what it needs to end up being, but I wanted us to at least start on something. So.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have an extra, so.
Thank you, ma'am.
So basically what I'd like to get done tonight is at least identify the people, in terms of from what groups we would like on this committee, so we can start the application process. And then if we can also maybe come to some sort of general consensus in terms of what this group is gonna look at. I would love to get there. So, one of the things that I wanna make super clear, is that I really want this to be a collaboration, and I've been looking at a lot of, strategic plans for education in other towns and cities and everything, and they just include a lot of different people from the community, and you'll see in here, that's why I put down the different types of people that I did, and so, I'm hoping that at least one, if not two, school board members who would like to serve, one select board member, I put down a budget committee member, I thought that could be helpful, I know we're struggling to get budget committee members, so maybe not. A current parent, a teacher, administrator, a current student or recent alum, a chamber of commerce member, and then one at-large member, and then the superintendent being the ex officio member, of course. So I don't know if there's ones that other people were thinking of in terms of different groups of people, or if we should leave it more open. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so, I think this is great. I have a couple of questions. So starting with this ad hoc committee and the study it's going to do, I just wonder if we need that many people to begin with, because the original ad hoc committee was to look at, you know, the first two things listed under your directives and goals.
Yep.
So I wonder if it's prudent to work on a strategic plan as well, or would we be better off having a slightly smaller committee and get those two questions answered first, get them forward and have that in a 5 or 6 month time span, and then we could use another committee to work on a strategic plan with the schools because to me the school strategic plan is really the school board's job. So if the school board wanted to work on a strategic plan and then include us in another collaborative effort. I just think the strategic plan is really their work and not ours. So,
Yeah. I think that sounds a little complicated, Dan. Although I can appreciate why you would structure it like that. I really do like including as many people as possible on this committee, so that there's wide interest and representation. It is a working committee, I understand that, but it looks to me like you've pretty well outlined the options. Appreciate it.
We just ask everybody to speak up a little bit, because the people on Zoom can only hear through my computer, so.
Yeah, I couldn't hear what Terry said.
Yeah, so, yeah. Do you guys anticipate needing subcommittees as part of this? Bake-off groups needing to work on various things? Because if that's the case, then the more that, and I would have to agree with Terry, if you need to have more.
Right. So I'd like to hear from the school board members and the superintendent as to whether they think it's, whose place it is to build a strategic plan for the schools. I don't want to step on toes.
Yes, no.
As a member of the school, of the select board running the town, we do not run the schools, so that's where I don't want to step on toes there. I'd like to hear from them.
Well, I would think that pretty much the strategic plan is getting bigger and better, you know, trying to expand our offerings, trying to get more people. The Dresden thing is good news for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rumor I've heard for at least a couple of years now. Of our fiscal problems and our amount of students obviously would be sports teams and that thing, and to make a better experience for the kids we have. I have one thing, so I agree that it's not the select board's
Yeah, that was my
job
real
to do
question.
the
Yeah.
strategic plan of the school, but, you know, we have a mandate from the voters here, so we can work together and at least get some information and find out, you know, if we're headed in the right direction with this at all, you know. Doing it's what we've been asked to do. I do have one small thing. I would wonder why a Chamber of Commerce member would be part of it. You know, I mean, that would be, I mean, obviously for the, I guess you could get people to come if there are more people here and get more business, more jobs and stuff. I could see that. I don't know if that's making it.
Yeah, so I think that piece is important for me in terms of connecting to the workforce and the economy. And I guess I'm seeing this as a bit of a bigger picture type of thing.
Right.
And that's why, like, I definitely don't wanna step on toes, and you can let me know if there's already a strategic plan being in the works or anything like that. We definitely don't wanna reinvent the wheel there. But the other piece is that I think it's important to have not just education represented. I guess that's
Oh,
where
yeah,
I was coming
absolutely.
from.
Right. That's
You
not-
definitely want all those who have a very important stake in it and a real one, but also those who you might not think of immediately.
Right, that's
So
good.
that was the thinking there.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Go ahead, Kim.
Go ahead, Ken.
But first I apologize on that there. I had an admin team meeting that ran really late and I could not go. My question is, do we have a clearly stated or defined chart for this committee?
So,
I only heard half of that.
do we have a clearly defined charge for this committee? So, what was on the ballot?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yep.
So what was on the ballot was committee to study the future of the Wisconsin School Department, including all options for expansion, consolidation, or continuing the status quo. And then, Kim, the sheet of paper that you aren't looking at right now,
At least we hope you
unfortunately, is a one-pager that I put together as a starting point for discussion, which I'll just read out. This is more sort of the charge I was thinking of. The purpose of this committee is to proactively plan for the future of the Wisconsin school system by setting goals with action items as part of a strategic plan and collaborating with community partners and neighboring towns. The committee is not intended to be a burden on the school department administration, but rather a collaborative partner to assist with the planning for the future of the schools.
That sounds good.
I knew this was gonna be a challenge, but.
Is that, can I ask about the part where it says proactively plan? Is that really what the committee was charged with by the voters? I just remember the ballot item saying the future of schools.
Yeah, so the first thing I read was the words from the ballot, like the top there, the charge.
The charge.
That's exactly what it says on the ballot.
Yeah, so the difference being the charge is to study the future of the schools. The purpose below that, was that part of the charge?
No, I wrote that.
Okay. Because planning is a little different than studying the future.
I would say yes and no. If you're studying the future, then you have to be.
Well, you can prepare a report. If your job is to study, then you can make a report to bring to the committee.
Okay. I guess part of this, so some of you know that my dissertation was on the strategic plan for Maine. And one of the pieces about plans and studies like these is that so many of them get put on a shelf after tons of hard work is put into them, and that's what I don't want to see with this. So, I mean, we can change the wording, and I get what you're saying, Dusty. But I would hope, I guess, if it's a study, that there would be some sort of recommendation out of it, I guess, if you want to call it that.
So is it, the purpose of this committee is to proactively plan to study the future of the Wisconsin school system. The plan is to study, and then you continue that, setting goals with action items as part of that. So proactively plan to study the future. Do you want to wordsmith it now, or?
Maybe not quite yet. I guess I'd love to hear from anybody else first. Terry, I don't know how you feel about all of this.
I didn't,
Oh, sorry, this is Terry.
Terry.
Terry, there's another Terry.
Okay,
Or Terry Wood, okay.
I've been listening to try and get a feel of what you're looking for, and I kind of agree with some of the statements, I think, like Dusty said as well. The town can do their thing because you had it on a warrant article. You'll need to get that information, so the school will be providing it for you. But we're working on our own strategic plan, and I think that's where it can be combined with what information that we're working on, but I'm not gonna be planning my strategic plan that the administrators and I have been working on to meet the criteria of this ad hoc committee, I guess. I think some of it will be cohesive, but I don't think that this committee really should be doing a strategic plan about the future of the school system in Wisconsin.
Okay, and I didn't know when I wrote this draft that there already was one in place, so we don't need to go in that direction then.
So what if you change the wording to the plan for the future of Wisconsin school system by setting goals with action items to be suggested action items that could be given to the school board for their considerations in their strategic plan. I mean, that was kind of them building their own strategic plan, and I guess I would word this in a way that said when we're done with this committee, we would turn our findings over to the school board for them to apply as they can. But a lot of what this ad hoc committee was going to be doing was looking at the financial viability of the schools, whether we stayed 9 through 12 local or offered school of choice, and if there was a way to increase student population that would also assist financially in the schools. And I thought that was really the bulk of what that ad hoc committee would be looking at, is what is the ramifications of keeping the school as it is now, or are there other ways to build financially to support the schools?
Yeah, with numbers, if they can kind of.
Yeah, I thought that was what this was supposed to be for. And then what the school board would do with that and the school system would do with that was they would use that in their future planning on how they run the school from there.
Terry, I think about.
Well, I guess my question is, where are you going to get the information?
Well, I would think the bulk of this information would come from the schools.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It kind of doesn't make, you know what I mean? We're going to be sharing, it's going to be coming from the school department, the costs and the tuition for tuitioning students out, the options, what the costs are for the different school levels and that. So it's kind of like, if you want to work together with that, when you have a meeting, say, okay, we're going to discuss what is the budget, what are the options, what are the number of kids, what, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like you don't have a committee working on that when the people that are giving you the information are on the committee, I guess.
Okay.
I'm not understanding how you plan on doing it.
So
The way it's set up.
if I may, Terry, this is Pam Dunning speaking, and at our other workshop that we held, I can't remember if it was you or someone else with the school department that said that during that discussion about the school's budget, that it would be fairly simple to find those numbers in your current budget and just run reports and bring up those items. And that was my thoughts, is that the school would do those reports, bring up those numbers, and then the committee would help talk, would talk with the school board and help build a plan with you that would support. I mean, the biggest reason this question came up on the ballot is townspeople keep asking, can we find a better way to afford our school system? What if we outsource our high school? This is a question that comes up over and over. What if we outsource our high schoolers and go to a K through 8 in town? And if that's not possible, Terry, you mentioned during that workshop that there are other towns that might be looking at coming back to Wisconsin. And can we work with those towns, or can we support the school system as they're working with their towns? That's really what people want to know. That's what the public in Wisconsin, that's what they want to know. And I think that's really what they're looking for, is what are those numbers and how can it work out that might help the school system?
Yeah. Hey, Michelle, you had your hand up?
Yes, so this is my only concern. One is, we've been down this route once before. We did it before we went into the RSU and different things like that, when we were trying to do all of this. And like Bath and stuff didn't want our kids. That's why we weren't part of the RSU. And I think people are forgetting this. This is why we had to go up, you know, more out of our area for the RSU, and look what happened. And now we have like Dresden and Richmond and different schools coming and calling us about coming to our school again, which is a positive thing. But then if we have some people running around saying, oh, would you take our kids? How much is it gonna cost for our kids? That kind of defeats the purpose of us building. We've worked so hard to get these towns to wanna come back to us, to then have a little group run around and say, oh, but we might wanna outsource our high school. Well, that defeats it, and that doesn't help any. And we have been down this road, and we know already, and we knew like 4 or 5 years ago when we did this, that wasn't cost efficient to send our kids elsewhere. We were having issues with towns not wanting to take our kids at the time, and I don't see that changing. But what I do see is we have towns like Richmond and Dresden and stuff like that calling us, wanting to send their kids back to our high school. And that's a positive, and instead of trying to work against that, we should be working more on how to keep promoting that and building it up, and this is only gonna hurt it. So this, to me, after working in the school and being on the school board for 4 years, kinda upsets me, because it's like circling back again on something, and nobody's paying attention to how much we've worked to go and bring these kids back, and how much we are improving the school, to go yet again, let's go down this route again for no reason, and only hurt the school yet again.
So,
Can
Pebble,
I say something?
yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm driving, so I don't know how to raise my hand. And I don't know if my video.
Don't go all the driving.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 2 and 10, right? 2 and 10. What I want to say is Michelle raises a really good point. I think the issue, one big issue, is that there are members of the town, in the community, who don't know what all the school is doing. Like, we don't know about the strategic plan. People don't know the value that the school brings. And so I think there's this sort of old argument that kicks back to some of the old timers. Well, I don't even know who it is. Just some people in town who are always like, oh, we need to close the high school. That's going to save us money on our taxes. And I know, as an administrator, that's not the case, right? We can't close a school and tuition all of our kids out and, oh, I almost hit a squirrel. I'm all good. And, you know, like, I know that. Maybe we could just start the process with an audit of the current situation so that people in the town can understand it's not as simple as, you know, taking the cost per student and just looking at the cost per student in another district and like, oh, we're going to save all this money. No, you're not. It's a really complicated formula. There's also the transportation issues. And if we just, for a moment, set the dollars and cents aside, what is the value of a community school to each of the individual children and families that we educate?
thank you, Kim. I just want to say a couple different things. One, this is really, so.
We can put the dollars and cents on that, but I need more valuable to educate your kids in town than in a place talking.
Are you all set, Kim, or are you still going?
I think she's in a
No,
phone,
that's
she's
fine.
putting off.
Go ahead.
You keep cutting out, so we're not sure when you're finished and when you're not.
I think we hit a dead zone.
Or a squirrel?
Or sure. This way, maybe I can hear better, because they can't see us anyway, so.
Right, okay, so a couple things I want to say. One, the language that got on the ballot was something that I came up with because I felt like it was a compromise, because I know that there are a significant portion of people in the town who keep asking this question, and I think it is relevant to get the answer to the question to settle the issue. I also know just from having studied school choice when I was in DC that it's not going to be a big difference in terms of the actual amount of money. But I don't believe and please someone correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've actually ever crunched those numbers officially. So I think that could be helpful. The other reason why I worded this the way I did in terms of the ballot article is that I felt like this could both answer the question that many people wanted the answer to, but also be an opportunity for the whole town to collaborate and get behind the schools, and as several people mentioned, get more out there so people know what's actually happening. And I think that's really important, particularly as people, you know, see various numbers coming from the school in terms of number of kids, and they don't really know what's behind that in terms of what does that actually mean for enrollment, what is, you know, Dresden is a real possibility. The board chair over there told me they're sending a letter trying to get out of their RSU. So that's a real possibility. And so I guess I really want us to try to look at this as something that could be really positive, both in support of the schools and the school board, but also just in terms of the town really getting more behind the schools and really understanding to a deeper level what's going on there, particularly after this crazy year where so much good was happening even with everything going on. So, you know, and like I said, this strategic plan, I wasn't aware when I put this just talking points together that there already was one, so I don't want to be duplicating work that you're already doing, but I wonder if I feel like if we can answer that initial question about the financial impact of choice, get that settled, get that out there, people can ask questions, then we've answered the question. You know, I know that the Dresden piece is largely not necessarily a committee piece. That's something that Terry and her team would be working on, although I assume we would have a role at some point in terms of towns collaborating. But then I just think if there's a way to use this opportunity to have really productive conversations about the future and what people would like to see for the schools in the future, I just think I think we could take advantage of this, and it really could be a compromise for those who aren't necessarily feeling great about paying their taxes and having it go to the schools, but also those who maybe just aren't aware of what we're providing and what's there. So that's, yes.
Yeah, what was voted by the people was to study, right? So it doesn't have to be setting goals, it's the study. And then we need to present that to the town again for another voting maybe next year. And then we can decide what are we going to do with the strategic school. You know, the school has strategic planning and budget planning. So by using that, this is only to study. That's what was voted on. So it's not to have action or anything. So the action will be kind of in the future, right?
Yes.
So we
yes,
need to study it first.
Yes, and this committee would not be actually making any action.
Right.
It would all be recommendations.
Right.
It would
So
not
studying and then presenting it to the town again, and then they can vote it again.
What would they vote on?
Right.
No, what do you think?
On what the study found, what is it that the
Right.
school is doing?
Well,
I don't necessarily think it would lead to another vote, right? This is just a,
no, I feel like it might be more along the lines of what Pam said earlier, is that it would then be recommendations for the school board.
right.
Okay,
Yeah, because only the school board can make the decisions.
right, yes. I know.
Pam?
So yeah, just to follow up on that, to me, what this committee to me, what this committee could do is, as Sarah and I have already said, is people in town keep asking this question. Let's work together so that it's a combined effort.
Transparency.
Answer that question, and then the school board is going forward looking for, you know, student populations that may be of interest to this town and things like that. And let it be shown to the town that the school board is working together with the town and listening to the townspeople. You know, you asked us the question, here's the answer.
Right.
Here's the answer.
I agree.
I mean, that can be easily given. Give people the answer and let them see what that is. so they have a full understanding. And then the town will also see that you have worked with this committee and listened to it as you move forward in how you plan for future years in the school. I think this could be a very positive thing instead of a negative thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think this isn't, the question isn't really, can we just send our high school students away? The question is, what does it cost to keep them here? Is it worth, if it's more, is it worth the difference? Right? If it's less, is it that much less that it really makes a difference? Is another way of looking at it.
Right.
But the other thing is, can we build our student population, and can the town and the school be seen to be collaborating and working together instead of it making it look like we're adversaries?
Right.
We need to not look like we're fighting with each other, because we're not. We're not. I have no argument with the school board at all. It serves a purpose. It's very valuable to the town. It's important. But I think this could be a very positive thing for us to work together and get this done so that people get the answer and they can leave it alone.
They just want transparency.
Yeah. They just want transparency, exactly.
That's it.
And I think this can also, I'm not thinking anymore about the strategic plan, but I think there's definitely an opportunity maybe for this committee to work with the comprehensive planning committee in terms of the feedback that we'll be gathering on all kinds of issues, but will include education. So maybe that's part of the role. Yeah, Dusty.
I wanted to say to what you were saying earlier, as I was listening to you talk about what you wanted the committee to accomplish. I think even within the language of the charge, you get all of that. You get what you want, all that information. I just want to make it clear that this committee, the only job they have is to answer these questions. And beyond that, whether they work with the standing committee or not, I think is a separate question. So I'd like to, capture all of what we're talking about here and maybe identify the questions that we want the committee to ask and answer.
Yeah. I think it's, and I don't think it would take, by answering just these two questions, that's not a one-year process. That's more like a 4 to 6 month process to get those two answers and to a point really. And we could have that turned over to, information out to the public in 5 or 6 months really. Those two questions aren't that hard to answer.
The financial impact in Dresden.
The financial impact, I mean, that's the school looking at their last year's budget and doing the crunching some numbers, and with the committee members, looking at all the different, the school board members and the superintendent of schools and whoever else is on this committee, looking at those numbers and seeing what the impacts are. Getting the actual numbers from the last year's school budget is running a report. I think that the answers to that first question could be out in 4 to 6 months, really. And the question about the viability of inviting other schools to send their students here, I think that's something that the committee can talk with each other about, and then that work gets turned back over to the school board. Because it's not the town's job.
So what if we, using this, what if we just cross off that paragraph I wrote at the top, the purpose of, just get rid of that. And then we focus on the first 2 bullets there. So answering the question of the financial impact of allowing choice for grades 9 to 12. And then the connect with Dresden formally to start conversations with Dresden students returning to Wiscasset. And then instead of the last 2 bullets, perhaps the committee could be a very active part of the comprehensive plan information gathering when we get to that specific chapter.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think the important part, these are good questions to answer, but another very important thing that is in here but not necessarily, explicitly, is like the value, the non-money value of a town school, the culture, the way the kids think the town feels about them, how it supports them, town pride, school pride, which is a lot of what I think is missing in some people's minds, because the school used to be so big and there used to be so much more going on. We live in a different time, and there's also a lot of new people coming to town. There's younger people in town that are obviously walking around with children that are not old enough to be in school now, and we don't know you just gotta think forward as far as the future planning and comprehensive planning is like, we don't wanna go and do something and then find out, well, that was a huge mistake, you know? Money's one thing, but the whole big picture, we just can't lose sight of. Cause it's been a great school for many years, and it's just
Right.
people talk about it in a way they must not have in the past before I lived here, you know, it's sort of a winsome, good old day feeling with some people in town, and it's like, you know, things never stop changing, it's always a new day. Especially for the new kids, they don't know that this town had a different
And nothing is
reputation.
perfect, right?
So I just,
We cannot have perfection anyway.
Yeah.
You know, we always have something to build on, to learn more, and collect community feedback is very important to me. So the third bullet should be included.
Yeah, and I feel like that would be, to Jason's addition, that I think would be really important to actually collect how people feel about the non-financial impact of the schools.
yeah, 2 empty town buildings, I think would be, 2 empty school buildings in this town, I think would be very sad.
But I think it could be important to document that, I think not just for the
Right.
comprehensive plan, but I think just for planning in general. So perhaps that could be the third question.
The survey, and I really think that when you talk about an online option, doing a survey on how people think about the schools and having an online option, I think that would be great. Maybe send out a mailing, I don't know what that would cost, send out a mailing townwide and have an online option for, you know, to have the committee work together to come up with 8 or 10 questions about what people think of the school, and then you'll get their opinions, honest opinions back in. And that again would support what you're working on towards your comprehensive plans and your strategic plans.
And I don't know if the people in this council know about this, but we do get 55% funding now from the state.
Yeah, this year.
For the first one.
For the first time in
Yeah.
They've said they're
First
going
heard
to,
about this
but-
in this room probably 7 years ago, I was like, wait a second, that's the law, but
Yeah.
of course you come to find out that
Right.
the referendums do not have to be followed in the state of Maine. It's an interesting,
Right,
loophole,
so,
basically.
I do think the survey is a good idea. If the committee builds up just 8 or 10 questions, keep it kind of simple, just to give you all a listing of what the results of that would be. And I think it'd be nice.
Are you thinking of also surveying all the school personnel, and what they think of the school? Are you gonna consider including, the teachers, the students,
All
the school
staff members.
community as a
Yeah.
whole? If you don't think about asking them, then you're, leaving out an important constituency.
right.
Yeah, when I say collect community feedback, I should have listed it out, but yes, community being a very broad definition.
Right.
That would include parents,
Staff
students would be
members,
great if
yeah.
we could do that even.
It has been done. It is not illegal to ask students what they think.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but I think all different community pieces would be
Yeah,
helpful.
I believe, maybe it's not correct, but I think it is, that the school is the largest employer in the town, Wiscasset.
Is it?
That-
Is
It
that
has
the
to be,
place?
it was either that or
Ben-
Mollica.
Yeah.
It's one of the two, you know, I don't know,
It's
but,
probably in the top 5, and Rhino is up to 160 odd out there now.
out there, right, so.
But
And that would
yes,
affect
it's-
other communities, it would also affect the rec center, activities at the rec center, and, you know, it's complicated, we all know that it's way more far-reaching than, of course, I know, but the people that started this with their original warrant article wanna know about the money, that's really where they're at, so
Right.
that might be.
It's always that money.
Yeah, and that's why it's first on the list.
Right.
Because when I proposed the language, I said, I didn't promise necessarily, but I wanted them to know that, yes, we'll get that answer. But the rest of it is where I feel like we have opportunity, yes.
Go ahead, Kim.
I was just wondering, would it be beneficial to do a review of any studies of the benefits of a hometown school versus busing your kids to another school district someplace else?
Yeah, there's actually I think she's a professor at Bowdoin who studies rural school choice, and is published pretty widely on it with all the different components, particularly transportation and why that can be difficult, and very different from like New York City school choice. But yeah, I mean, doing some information gathering, and I think even putting together maybe a short presentation that has some highlights of the school that you know, we can put on the town website, could be on the school department website, just so people can learn more. So when we get these questions, okay, what are my tax dollars actually paying for? I think
And
that,
another thing that might be good to look at is the socioeconomic status of the students that we predominantly have and the impact of the choice that they would get. You know, like choice is all good for parents with the wherewithal, but a lot of our students, where would they end up? A lot of students are going to go to the school that's closest to home. What does that look like?
yeah.
And what does it feel like to be an outsider and in a way too, all of a sudden you're gonna go here, you know what I mean, where you've been in this tight-knit community for so long and all of a sudden you're gonna be, oh, I have to go to the big town, now I'm going to the big town. I already was nervous enough in school, now I've gotta go to Bath, I'm gonna ride the bus extra long, I'm just saying that's all part of the.
Yeah, well, and to Kim's point, just access in general.
Yes.
Very broadly defined, how does that impact access for students? So I think that I mean, we can do the financial answer, but then we can also supplement that with research basically, and I'm happy to help with this, in terms of what are the impacts of school choice in general, good or bad, depending on the way you look at it. Because there are a lot of different pieces, and particularly they're much, like I said, they're much different than for big school districts. So could we say our 3 questions are those first 2, and then collecting community feedback on what is the non-financial impact of the school, or we can word it a better way, but.
I want to ask you about the second one.
Yeah.
Having this committee formally begin conversations with the president, that seems like that's definitely the school board's role.
I mean, I guess, Terry Wood, is there any role for committee to play? I realize the town has to play a role at some point if that happens, but
So what are you asking me?
is there any role that a committee like this would play in investigating partnering with Dresden? Or is that just easier left with you and your office?
I think I would let us continue what we're doing right now first, and then I think it would be beneficial to include the town's, you know, a small committee of the town. And why I say that is right now, we've been working with Booth Bay quite a bit, and actually they will be having all of their fall sports cooperatively with Wiscasset. And that's a big deal. There's a lot of things that are going on, and like someone said earlier too, with COVID, it's been put in the back burner because COVID's been there, but there are a lot of things that we have been working on with area communities, and I get quite a few phone calls and I follow up on things. So I think let us do our part first, and then once we've got some answers or some direction, then we can share it back with this committee if that's what you want to do, and then look at next steps for the town.
Okay, it's Booth Bay, Terry, was the
Thank you.
town.
It's sounded
Yeah,
like
Derek,
Bridge.
and Tom, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you had said something about putting out a video, Sarah, on your website, but isn't the one that Chuck made go and show other schools right on our website, and they can just see it right on our website? There is a very nice video that was put together by our staff and kids, showing and showcasing our school to get other kids to come to our school, like from Dresden and Great Salt Bay and stuff. And it's on our website that you guys could probably see and maybe even share it on your website, but there is one made.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if I've seen it. I've heard it mentioned before. I was thinking more of like a PowerPoint presentation with stats and lists of things for people who wanted that sort of information. But yes, I think that's also important, and I think we can definitely see if we can put that on our website too.
Because this one is through the eyes of our students and staff, so I think that's an important thing.
It's powerful because it's from the
Yeah, it's from the kids and our staff that made this and put this together to want other kids to come to our school and why they should. So I think it's a very, very positive message.
Okay, thank you. And then,
Okay, so I did have a question for Terry. When it comes to the school, Terry, when it comes to the, school working with other towns to send their students here, and there's not a town vote to do that, is there? I mean, that's completely a school board vote to accept those students, and the rest of the town's not involved, right? Am I wrong?
What it is, it's superintendent's agreement unless, see, for all of the area towns, there are different plans. So for an example, RSU 12 doesn't have high school, so their kids have school choice. Their pre-K has to go to Edgecombe. However, if they're full, then we can take the pre-K kids. But we don't get any tuition for it. So in the past, we've been taking these students, but we don't get tuition for it. So we have to be very careful. We want other students, but not at a cost to us. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So we do have the different towns and areas where they can go, and it's specifically with RSU 12 that we're dealing with. So they have Ulna, Dresden, all of those little towns that they do have school choice for high school.
Right, but yeah, my question was more to the point that, and we keep saying Dresden, but I'm sure there are other towns you can outreach to. If you're working with those, I mean, there's nothing that the town votes on to accept other towns into the schools. That's completely between you and the other superintendents and your school boards, right?
And we do have it, so we do a superintendent's agreement, so we are having kids from other schools that don't live in Wisconsin, and they're wanting to come here, and I have approved them.
Okay, yeah, I thought that was the case. I just wanted to be sure that there was not a town vote that does that.
No, it's between the superintendents.
I was thinking more going in and out of an RSU, I think,
Right.
which
Then
towns do vote on.
again, that's your withdrawal plan. Everyone that's withdrawn, you have a plan, and it's, I think ours actually, Michelle and Mike is here, and Jason, I believe it was 10 years, and I think we're in year 7 right now. So we've got, I think we're going into year 8. So we'll be making some decisions, and the strategic plan is based on how that could look differently as well. So we've got to be working on that. So when the time comes up, we can say, no, this is what we'd like now. So we do have some leeway with that coming up, in a couple of years.
Okay, thank you. Terry, did you have, other Terry, did you have another thing to say?
Yes. I'm interested in knowing from you, Terry, is there possibly a good timing, a better timing for the beginning of the work of the ad hoc committee, such that it might need to wait until you have completed some of your work there on what you're doing? I'm specifically asking, how we could be more helpful to the members of this ad hoc committee as well as the school committee in setting this thing up. If there is some way to coordinate what this ad hoc committee, what we're setting up for them to study, would it be helpful if there was a period of waiting about 3 to 4 months? When did you think this process should start that might be helpful to you, if that's a question to ask? The second thing I'd like to point out is, and I loved it when you made this motion, when you wrote this motion the way you did, and I wondered if you realized at the time that this is a vision statement. This is far more targeted at a vision statement than strategic planning. And what you really want, and what we all want, is a positive view of the future. If we can keep our focus on exactly the way you wrote it, that would be important. I appreciate that. Okay, now back to the first question.
Back to you, Terry.
Did you hear anything you wanted to answer
I
there?
don't think we need, I don't think 3-4 months. The only thing is I have a brand new business manager that is just starting next week. So I would really like to give her some time, to be able to, pull the data. Because I can go in and pull the data, but I think it's gonna be important for her to have a good understanding as well of the budget. I have a administrators retreat, all of next week. So we are gonna be looking at, some of these things specifically. So I guess, are you asking me when I can come back and present to you the financial, impact?
Yeah, I realize that you need to get some things in order, and we need to not get too far ahead of the information that you can gather. It might be helpful if we held up a little bit until you were ready. What would that be? I'm really specifically talking about the timing of it, and it might also give us a little bit of more time to focus our questions for the ad hoc committee.
January.
What is the committee? I'm thinking October. Because school will be starting back in September.
See, I was thinking that too. Funny thing.
Or
Wouldn't some of that be the committee?
when do you want to, okay, let me ask you this question. When do you want to send the survey out? Because I think it would, my personal thought is, if people know we're working on this, there's a committee being formed, I think that we get the survey out first, gather the information while I'm gathering the financial piece of it, so they see that we're working together. And I think it's going to be very important how we release the information and the timing of releasing information as well. That's
Yeah.
just my thought.
That's a really good point, and then release it all together in terms of findings, basically. So in terms of timing, I think, so that it would dovetail nicely with the comprehensive plan, fall would also be a decent time. And we're about to send out a survey about a marijuana ordinance and for the comprehensive plan survey overall, so I wouldn't want to send it right now anyway, and summer's not the best time, particularly late summer when people are vacationing and whatever, so fall would probably be a good time to release a survey. So I was thinking if we could get the committee formed pretty much immediately, then they could meet and start to put together those questions, while then you and your team could work on the numbers part.
Right. Now, don't we have a comprehensive meeting September 20th?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is gonna focus on education, for those who aren't aware.
Yeah.
We don't have one sooner than that?
We do,
Oh.
but we've bookmarked that one. We're trying
I
to
thought
schedule
I saw
further
next
out
week.
this time.
So that's a school board meeting?
No, that's a comprehensive plan meeting.
Oh, okay.
Kim, did you start to say something, Kim?
No.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I think I was just saying, I think I said January, like, we should probably put all this off until the end of the first semester.
I'm shaking my head at you. No, I don't wanna wait too long because, well, for a number of reasons, but
I think that's too long as well. That's my personal.
okay, so.
I think
October, November is like shooting at a better time, because January 2, then we're starting to look at the budget. we have to start thinking about the school budget, so we're gonna be in a whole nother, that's when budget season starts, usually around there. So if we could get some of this done prior to some of the other big things that are gonna be happening, time-wise might be better.
So what if we appoint the committee between now and mid-August, get them meeting, have a survey go out sometime after Labor Day, give people at least a month or so on, and we'll do all kinds of various channels in terms of people, however they feel comfortable giving feedback, and then we can target early November for the actual results. Would that give you enough time, Terry, on your end?
Yeah, now do you want, I just need to know how specific and how detailed, and the exact information that you, it would be see, because we still have 7 through 12 at the high school. So when you're talking about tuitioning, it's only 9 through 12.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
I can
So,
make a suggestion.
that's why we've still, there's no way I can put the 6th, 7th, and 8th at back at the elementary school. There's no room for that. So then I'll have to look at those scenarios, because then we still have the building, and then, okay, we close the upstairs and keep everyone in the downstairs. So there's gonna be all kinds of different figures if we're looking at that.
Yes. Dusty?
Yeah, could we, ask the committee that their first step to come back to us with a sort of presentation of the questions they're asking and what sources of information they intend to use, and we start from
That's
that
what
point.
Michelle was asking as well. Is it gonna come back to?
Questions they're gonna ask in
Yeah,
the survey?
So we'll focus on getting the committee teamed up
Yeah.
first, and then their first order of business is to come back to us with a set list of questions that they're gonna answer in their study. And then we look at the questions at that time, make sure they're all the questions we need to ask, and then send them off to do their work.
Yes.
Okay.
Including the survey questions.
To me, that's the same thing, right?
Yeah, right.
Well,
Well, I was thinking more specifically the questions that the committee is gonna ask as a function of being the committee and completing the work to
Okay.
respond to the charge. The survey questions they can provide as well, but I don't think that's not what I was thinking of as being my first step. I would like for them to just basically come back and say, we as the committee, in response to the town charge, propose to find out this by asking these questions. And at that point, we look at it and approve those questions,
Yep.
and then off they go to do the work.
Okay. Yes. I agree with that.
That sounds reasonable.
Terry?
And I'm just gonna say, if we really are truly saying, okay, we're gonna work together, we're gonna, finally, we're gonna get the town and the school committee, we're really looking at working actively, positively for the betterment of Wiscasset, then I think that it's very important when we're having these conversations like this, that we don't go out into the town and say, oh no, look, we're not gonna get this information till this time, and I want us to make sure that we have a purpose, like you said, we've got a purpose for this group, and we're gonna stay focused on answering the warrant stuff and try not to get off on the little bunny trails that's happened in the past. I think we all know there has been a history, and what I've heard is we treated Dresden like dirt. So it is kind of like stroking their back, trying to say, I think all of us here can say we really were not involved in those decisions. I don't think there's any people left on either of these committees. So this is a perfect opportunity for us to move forward collaboratively and for the betterment, like I said, of our community, but also area communities as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think there has been some concerns voiced that this committee could go off on all these different trails, and that's why I think it's important that we're defining this right now, and why I think it's important to Dusty's point, and what I put on here is that for the committee to come back and update periodically both of our boards, so we know what they're actually talking about and whether they're going down the direction that we feel like matches with what the warrant article was.
And as they form their plan of how they intend to answer their questions, they can add timeframe estimates to each step, so they can give us an idea of when their work will be done along the way. As they formulate their, beginning steps.
Yeah, I've seen too many times in general where things take many more months and years than they really need to, and so I would want them to come back to us and say, here's our plan, and then we approve that. But if they say, oh no, we're gonna wait until March, well, no, that's not.
That's why we have the opportunity to look and say, yes, no, what they're proposing.
Okay.
You just said something, to approve our plan. Who's approving what plan?
When the committee teams up, they will come up with a plan for how they will answer the questions that the town charge has asked. And then they'll present that plan to the select board and we'll say, yes, do that plan and go get those answers for us.
Okay, of how to present it, correct.
Yes.
And I would say we would be the official approvers, but I would like for the school board also to be part of that before we say yes.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we understand that, this is a town warrant, we're a department of the town, I know it's a separate committee, but this is really good. That the attitude is really good, the feeling is good, as far as I'm concerned about everybody working together. And this being
Under the umbrella of the
real,
town.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my case.
Right.
Okay. So are we agreed that in terms of first steps, we'll talk about the structure of the members in just a second, but in terms of timeline, we'll get people hopefully in place by beginning of August, so they can begin to start meeting. Are we all good with that? Okay.
Yep.
All right, so then.
Dennis is skeptical, we'll try.
What?
Dennis is skeptical, we'll try.
You've got one select board meeting, left in July, and you have one on the 3rd of August, so.
It's 3 weeks from
That's
now.
plenty of time.
Okay.
So individuals need to apply the same as any other committee?
Any other committee?
Yes.
Yes.
So the next step is we need to decide whether what I have down or some other conglomeration, or whether we don't want to identify people have to be from certain groups of the committee, or what you want to do with that. So I guess overall, I would love to see 2 school board members if you're up for that.
I am, personally.
I am.
I'd also like to see 2
We'll all be on it.
select board.
Jason and Michelle, I think. Yep.
Okay.
We want to be careful how big we
Thank
make these committees too,
Yep.
because when a committee gets too big, it kind of involves.
Oh, yeah.
It does, and you start getting so many varying opinions that you just get bogged down, so.
I think
Hopefully
two
most of
school
us
board
is
members,
correct.
I think 2 school board members, I don't care if there's 2 on or not, but I don't think we need 2 select board members, I mean.
Well, I think you've got at least 3 educators on the select board and.
Well, you'll have a select board member, and then you'll also have a select board liaison.
That's right.
So they won't necessarily be a
There's a
voting member.
liaison to this committee.
It's gonna be treated the
So
same.
So I
way.
guess
However, I want to say that we want to make sure that not everybody on this committee is associated with education.
yes.
So we want to make sure that there are many people that are not associated with education.
That's Pam, Kim.
Yeah, that's Pam, Kim.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the educators, of course, but then we need to make sure that there's non-educators as well.
Yes, absolutely, and that's why I know 9 feels a bit big, but it's also the size of a number of our other committees, and there's always someone who can't make it and that sort of thing. So with the select board, I guess I sort of figured like I wasn't gonna advocate for myself to be the one on this, but I'm certainly willing in terms of my educational
I
training
would
to
like
help.
to do it.
Now you have a politician.
Okay, what did she say?
She wants to do it.
Okay, can we
I
go?
do.
Yes, I got you. I just wanna go through the rest of them though, in terms of, and frankly, that's up to you, which 2 of you, in terms of the school board wanna do it, and then we can discuss who from the select board, but I just wanna make sure everybody's in agreement in terms of the different types of people. Sounds weird, but,
Sounds good.
okay,
Different demographics.
yes, different demographics. I'm wondering if maybe not a budget committee member because we don't have many budget.
That was something I've been working on starting today, so,
Are you a budget committee member?
no, but
Town
we
manager.
need a budget committee for town, so nobody ran this time anyway.
Okay, so question mark on that. And then what do people think about the current parent, a teacher or administrator, the current student or recent alumni?
Well, if you've already got the 2 school board members and an ex officio superintendent, do you really need another employee of the school?
Yes.
Because, but you've got two school board members and the superintendent, you really need a teacher to talk about you're
Yes.
talking about the numbers you're talking about the money numbers essentially, and you're talking about the student population numbers, do you need a teacher for that?
The teacher.
Not
will be-
necessarily for that first question,
Sure.
but I think could be very helpful on
Yes.
this, on feedback, gathering feedback. and sort
What
of-
was your thinking in having the superintendent being ex officio instead of a member of the committee?
Well, superintendent is ex officio, she has to be there.
She does have to be there. I was
Right.
thinking that she needed to
So-
be a member of the committee.
Right, ex officio, she would not be a voting member.
I mean, it's not like there's gonna be much voting,
That's okay, right?
so
No.
it doesn't make that much of a difference, but.
The only vote was what got us here.
But
I mean, seriously, yeah.
I would caution you about trying to get this too heavy on the school side, just from the public's point of view.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You're getting a bias here,
I
so.
mean, you could be tapped for your knowledge without being.
Right, and having Terry as an ex officio, that's exactly what she can be, is an advisor, not necessarily part of the committee.
Well, she's been doubling as a principal, so.
But
I have a
having,
principal.
We have a principal.
but having a
What
teacher
about
would be
the
important.
people behind
Yes.
the position?
We're not talking about curriculum.
People behind the petition,
No,
well,
I-
that would be a budget committee member, because it would be,
And or an at-large member.
or not a large member.
I mean, I would honestly hope that one of them would be interested in doing this.
One group.
And
One of the
Michelle and
people behind the
Jason
original.
both Michelle and Jason both have students, so I don't think we would even really need a parent, a separate parent.
Okay, so that's.
And I have a student as well.
Yeah.
Right, so I think that covers that, so we can try
Okay,
to.
let's take off current parent and the teacher administrator. We feel like we have those covered.
What if we replace those with just any?
What about an
citizen?
unhappy parent?
I think the parent would
Because
be
I
important.
denied superintendent's agreement, so I can give you that name.
How do I
No,
advertise,
no.
how do I advertise that?
I think, somebody from the Chamber of Commerce might be good, because they've been doing a lot with the advertising for Wiscasset, that they've been a little bit more involved than I've seen in the last few years in the past, than I did in the past. So I think they would be beneficial to get their view take on
I
some
think that was
things.
brought up earlier. Right.
Yeah. And then, go ahead.
So what about like a realtor? Or is it a realtor?
Well,
Yeah,
that's-
I got it.
it.
Just a second, Kim.
I think a parent would be very important in this.
Well,
Well, you
we'll
better
have
take Jason or
one,
not, and Kim.
yeah. We'll end up having one with Michelle and or Kim
And Jason.
and Jason.
The three
But
of them
these are
are-
also people with two hats. So a parent who has nothing to do with the board member should be there, because they are they need to hear this. They need to be part of this, because the parent input. Michelle is a school board member. She's in here for school board. Otherwise, she can be here for parent, one or the other.
Is there a
She can't
parent
wear two
teacher,
hats.
is there a parent teacher association?
Yes, and a teacher is important because they are involved in this. They need to be at the table.
What do they have, is that their title?
They do, I'm sorry.
I think you make a very good point.
No, I think.
Okay, but I think.
I agree.
I think if we're gonna do that, then we need to keep it at 9, because I really don't want it to be 95% school people.
Right.
I have a suggestion on that. What if we identify the school people, town people that we want to be on the board, and then the other number of people can just be, some number of town citizens. And we don't try to identify which town citizens they are. They're just 4 people who volunteer.
So take the bottom 3 and just make them all at large.
I mean, what do people think?
I think this is fine.
If you do that, how many board members do you have? How many committee members, excuse me, do you have?
School board.
2 school board, 1 select board, 20 at large. That's 6. So you need a 7th, so you could do 2 school board, 1 select board, and 4 members at large,
I guess,
if you want the 9.
yeah, I guess
To get your odd number.
the point of trying to do this was to make sure that we have
A
a
representative.
very wide
Yes.
representation
Yeah, yeah.
of where they're coming from.
And
In terms
also
of their-
that those people would know that that is what they are representing. In other words, that is the voice that they need to make sure is heard. So I understand, I take your point, but
Well, so we could do something in between. So if we don't do, I think, let's not do the budget committee member, because they're already meeting stretched in with trying to get them on the budget committee. Then that would give us at least two at-large members, so then that's whoever applies. Or, I don't know that we have to have a current student or recent alum as an official board member if we're certain, particularly if we end up surveying students. So you could make that a 3rd spot. I think it would be great if we kept the Chamber of Commerce piece.
Yes.
Oh, there she is. Kim's here now.
Sorry, guys.
Are the squirrels safe now?
Yeah, I did not kill a squirrel today.
Okay.
Sunday.
So, all right, so what if we do this? 2 school board members, select board member, 3 at-large, a parent, current parent, a current teacher, and a Chamber of Commerce member.
No student?
Hang on.
I really liked a student option.
Yes. Because the students are the one who are
Effective.
highly impacted by this.
If you add a student to what you just read off, that's 9.
That's
And
10.
there's 2, 3,
So 2 at large.
7, 8, 9, 10. No, that's 10 without adding the student. Adding the student makes it 11.
No.
So reduce
2
to
select
at
board.
large.
I encourage
Sorry,
you
two
not to
school
worry about a large number of people. They cannot all meet at the same time.
Yeah, 2
Well,
school board.
Yeah, 2 school
We
board.
would like to only have 1 school board member. Jason wants to do it, that's fine. If it was beneficial to have 2, then that's fine too. But if it's only beneficial to have 1, I'm sure Jason can do just fine with that.
You just totally got
I
something
really
to
feel like it would be great if
Sorry.
there were 2. I feel like that's important.
No, I confident enough, I know Jason can do it, that, I think, it.
I have no doubt.
Thank you, Michelle.
You feel like you have a hand in your
All
hat
right.
right now.
Okay.
Sorry.
What's the list?
Then why don't we, okay. 2 school board members, a selectman, 2 at-large members.
Oh, okay, I had 2. All right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Well, I'm changing it. Hang on. A student, parent, a teacher, and a Chamber of Commerce person. That should add up to 9.
Okay.
Five of those are biased towards the school.
8, 9, 10. I keep getting 10.
9.
Oh, not necessarily the chamber number twice, never mind. You said it, so I wrote it down and then it was still on hold.
The 2 at-large may not be.
I can't hear everything that everyone's sharing because people are talking all at the same time.
Ed's making the point that a bunch of those are going to be skewed towards the school in terms of positively.
You know what I mean? I'm gonna be presenting you.
And it's a.
So I just don't, you know what I mean? I know you want representation from there, but you're answering the question when I'm talking about the questions, I thought this was to answer what our options were, but it's gonna be based on facts and numbers.
But I think the
So,
buy-in's important. So what if we do this? Aren't I correct that if you're under 18, you can't be a voting member of one of our committees without special permission anyway?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so then why don't we do a student as an ex officio as well, kind of like student council? I don't know if student council still has a rep to your board, but I used to be that person.
Not lately.
So then 3 at large. So that's the 9, and then a student and the superintendent.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may, Michael.
I may have missed some stuff because I missed part of the meeting, but I'm a little confused as this committee is, I believe, just being formed to gather information to answer the questions. What would we be voting on as this committee?
Yeah.
Yes, that, we've definitely mentioned that, but there's probably not really anything they'd be voting on.
Okay.
Yeah. Other than maybe just to vote to send the recommendations as done.
Okay, right.
And I think a lot of the work that the committee's doing is for public education.
Yes.
So they're going to be they're going to be collecting the information and disseminating it out so that we can put it out to the public, so that the public's questions are answered. And that's really the base of what the committee needs to do. It's educational to the public.
Yes.
Okay. Isn't the school board meetings open for to the public anyway?
Of course.
Yeah.
So if they attend the school board meetings, they can find out what we're doing, right?
Oh yeah, these will all be very public meetings, yes.
Right.
Just like
So-
all our other ad hoc,
So-
or other committees.
So they can always ask questions because we have always put aside time for public comments.
Yes.
So they could come and they can find out.
Right, so what brought this committee into being is that one specific question, really, it's mostly that one specific question about the students in the school and how the budget runs. So that's not something that's been brought up at a school board, even if you publicize it, I don't know if people.
That's all that's brought up at this
Yeah,
board.
yeah, that's, yeah. really.
Okay, all right,
No,
all right, off
absolutely.
topic, off topic.
Like, that's
Off topic.
all we do at school is figure out what's
All right.
the best way to serve kids at the cheapest price for taxpayers, full stop. That's all we do.
Yeah, but I think that people in town keep answering this question, and I think they just aren't hearing it. So that's,
Because they don't go to meetings.
well, they don't come to the select board meetings, and people don't come to any meetings.
I know.
Okay,
I'm guilty too.
so are we all in agreement?
I think that's 9 members, I think that's.
Plus the
what we count.
students? Yes.
I think it is heavy on the school board, on the school side, but I think that's where the
But
information's coming from, and that's who you want to hear from.
And at least 3 at large if.
Would you go over the list one more time, please?
Yes, well, and I'll fix my notes and send this out to everybody. 2 school board members, 1 selectman, 3 at large, 1 current parent, 1 current teacher, a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and then a student and Terry Wood as ex officio.
Okay.
All right.
So
I'll wait for the
she's
notes.
still-
I'll wait for the notes.
Okay,
So Michelle on the school board is not off the hook.
No.
Right.
So she
even
knows.
though we trust Jason,
Right.
he's not.
She tried.
I will be there.
Okay, so we will go ahead and open the applications for the rest of those. We'll discuss who's gonna do selectmen, you can.
When will that be
confirm.
available to do next week? You can come in?
Well, it's just the form that's on the town website. So, and then we'll appoint those, at the next 2 meetings that we have before, mid-August. And then we'll get a liaison from our committee, and then get something scheduled.
Sounds good.
Jason, if you want, and Michelle, if you want, I can send you these applications through DocuSign, and you can sign them out and kick them right back to me.
Okay.
by
All
email.
right, that sounds great.
All right, sounds good.
All right, and I will go ahead and try to write up what I think we agreed on for the 3 questions. And we can certainly revisit that before the committee meets, just to make sure everyone's on board. But this is progress.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's
All
more
right.
than I thought the first one might be. I think a lot was discussed.
Oh, good.
Not really committee, I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I know this was kind of a big one, but I really appreciate your openness to working with us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
I
very
think this
important.
could be really positive, so, thank you.
You're welcome. You guys have a lot more agenda to
Thank
go.
you.
Well said.
Thank you.
I have another question. On diversity, equity, and inclusion, where would this come in? In the at large?
Well, I would say definitely in the at-large, I would say it's definitely diverse in terms of opinions. I mean, that's an important part of diversity. I mean, I don't think we can
To even, yes.
It depends on who.
Yeah,
who
so it
signs up
depends
to
on
do it.
Because we also have students with special needs.
Sorry, Michelle.
What?
I'm sorry, I'm trying.
Okay, I'm trying to, I keep putting my.
I know, I see you keep putting your ear down.
Yeah, in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we do have special need kids.
Yeah, I'm,
Different abilities.
I'm assuming that those are very much, all of those different groups are gonna come up with both from the superintendent and from teachers and parents.
Right, right.
I-
But
I
that's a
don't,
large
I don't
amount of
expect
cost.
those diversity to not be represented, certainly. I mean, I'm not sure there's any way to further, unless, I mean, I think we get to a point where we would be more like a 15, 16, 17 member.
No, put it, include it in the at large. The at large need to be this and open.
You have to encourage people to,
Yeah,
apply.
But if there are none who would apply for those, then we can open it to everybody. So it needs to be prioritized. With the gender inclusivity, the LGBTQ, we need to open that up.
I don't think it's being closed by.
It is open.
Like everybody's
Anybody
invited.
can apply, but you can't make a group more special. You have to leave that open for everyone to apply. If they apply, they can certainly be considered and might make it on the committee, you know, depending on what they have to offer the committee.
So in your bylaws or policies, it doesn't have any requirements for that?
It requires us to be an equal opportunity employer, but not a special opportunity.
And in other words, we
So-
can't discriminate against
We
someone. for not-
can't
No.
discriminate against
But-
anybody because they don't fit into that group.
Either way, I mean, we can't
That's-
take you just because you are, we can't exclude you.
We couldn't advertise for just a member of the
Right.
LGBTQ
Right.
plus
No,
community.
no,
Because
that's not
that's
what
the-
I meant.
Yeah, no, okay,
But-
that's what it sounded like.
I understand what you're saying.
I don't.
Yeah, but you,
I don't.
yeah, no, you're saying you'd like to see us advertise and first get
not
other
advertise.
people first.
Okay, so,
But you'd like it to be open more towards people in
Right.
that
But,
description than others.
A priority given to certain members, if they want to be part of it,
Right.
it should be open.
But that's a reverse discrimination, that itself is a discrimination.
Yeah, it's.
That is also discrimination.
Yeah.
Well, we could argue that one for hours,
Yeah.
and I don't think this is the time or
But that's, yeah,
the
but that's not what
venue.
we're here for, right?
Are we finished?
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Okay.
Good night, Terry.
select board.
Have a glass of wine, okay?
Thank you, Terry.
I just gotta really thank you.
Thanks for showing, Michael.
Pleasure working
Take
with
care,
you.
guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
So, I guess my question to you guys is we advertise
And,
at large.
yeah, we're going with you right now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you later.
Take care.
See ya.
Our committee handbook does say that we interview these people.
Yes.
Yep, and I think that will be important for
That's
this
going
one.
to
Yeah.
be really important.
They usually meet with the board and get an interview. And I was going to ask about that with other people.
That's
but
why I'm wondering. if
We
you-
have been doing some of that.
Yeah, it depends on who it is.
Particularly if they haven't ever served on anything before, we have been, like for ORC, we
Yeah.
did that.
And we have a couple coming up actually, for budget committee that we're gonna have to interview. Anyways, okay, yep.
So what was your question related to that though?
Yes, it is just, well, I guess my point was, you've kind of cut this time frame down, we're gonna have to interview these people as well, because I think there's gonna be some interest in this. I think when this goes out, it says we need people on this, we're gonna get more than 3 at-large applications.
Yeah, well, I hope we do.
I certainly hope we do, for sure.
You're gonna
So
do
that's, but the interview process is gonna take some time. Not that we can't try to
Yeah.
pin that down on one night, but you gotta work around everybody's schedule, so.
Well, and I put that date out there because I'd like to aim
I-
for
I
that.
know.
It's okay if it's September 1st.
I know you
you know.
don't, you just wanna get things done, I know.
Mhm.
You just, the wheels of government grind slowly. and that frustrates me.
And I don't like it,
Work
so.
until the committee works.
Yeah, that thing where things have a tendency to stall isn't gonna happen with Sarah Whitfield as the chair of this board.
That's right. Not if I can help it. All right, we'll try to get through these fairly quickly. 'Cause I
So,
know
yeah, I know you
everybody's
guys, you set a time frame, then maybe we can kind of pick out some of the important stuff and some of the other stuff we can kind of leave, so. You want to be out of here by 7:30.
And there's only 5 minutes.
Some of the stuff we could probably jump over.
So
Well, it's
Dennis
easy.
wants to be home by 7:30.
No, I don't care, I don't have anything to.
Okay, well, let's jump to hybrid meeting policy.
So- Yep, so that was, so I think I've said this before, the state had this bill in the legislature allowing these remote meetings to continue even after the public emergency ends, and the executive order ends, which is July 30th. They did pass this, they watered it down quite a bit. But remote meetings can continue. There has to be a policy written by the town, and there has to be a public
There was a
hearing.
second page, sorry.
So we can do hybrid meetings. Now, this didn't work all that well tonight, and I knew it wouldn't
You
because,
need a microphone.
because of the setup.
Well, just not a laptop.
But I have already talked to Chris, our IT guy, and we can use, we already have most of the equipment anyways. What we would have to do is probably get like a big screen TV or a big monitor that we would either, I don't think put on the table because it would block the view of people sitting here, but mount on the wall or hang from the ceiling or something. Get a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse so that we didn't have to keep walking back and forth up to there. And you can have Zoom meetings. People could come in and participate through Zoom. The board itself, any board, committee, commission, whatever they are, they have to meet in person. There's no option there except for an emergency. So if there is an emergency, then, you know, they can meet remotely. Some towns actually are putting this out saying we're not doing it unless it's an absolute emergency. We're not going to do this as a common practice. So whatever it is you guys feel you want to do, you don't have to tell me tonight, but there is a sample policy in here from MMA that spells this out.
I guess I did that out wrong. How many pages were we supposed to have?
I've got 4.
So I got two.
There's
There's
two.
4.
There's
Should be that policy, and she doesn't have the beginning part.
Oh,
And you know who doesn't have the business?
Okay, so shall we take this home, take a read?
Take it home,
And then-
study it, see what you want to do. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think you're going to get more participation in your meetings if you do this. And if we have the right equipment, it won't be frustrating to do. It can be done. Schools have been doing it all year, so.
my knee-jerk reaction after doing this with the school board in this awkward way is like, oh, heck no. That's like, that was not an easy meeting to run, so.
And I
But
said,
if you have the right equipment, it flows smoothly.
If you just had I have one, it's a podcast microphone, I use it at school.
Yep.
And put it in the center and yep, omnidirectional. And at Searsport, we have one that actually has a camera built in and then the camera moves and picks up whoever's talking so that you're able to have meetings with people in person and on the screen at the same time.
I
And it
don't know
works
that we
pretty
need
well.
it here. If we did the TV, we'd put a camera on the TV so that it's focused here, and we'll be seeing them, so I don't wanna make it too expensive.
I don't think it was much money.
Because we already have most of the stuff anyways, it's not gonna be that expensive. The question is, do you wanna allow it? You don't have to, it's optional.
All right, so everybody take a read, and we'll revisit at one of the next select board meetings.
Just give me your feedback, and if you want, I'll draft the policy, and then we can have it.
Great. List of possible ordinance additions or revisions. The one I had, which sounds like it can be added to something, it doesn't have to be an entirely new one, is skateboards and other non-ADA disability wheeled things being allowed on the sidewalks.
Yeah, I brought that up last year.
Because we originally had that as part of the sidewalk policy, but then because the policy is not something you can actually fine people from, it needs to be part of an ordinance.
My son was delighted to hear that there is currently no ordinance, and I said, be careful, don't kill anybody.
Were there any other pieces of ordinances overall?
What's happening with marijuana?
So the update there is that as soon as I can finish the draft, we're sending, meaning the ORC and the Comprehensive Plan Committee, Comprehensive Plan Committee doesn't know this yet. We're sending out one letter with a postcard to send back that has very basic questions about a marijuana ordinance in terms of do you favor or not, and it's got, trying to think of the different ones, it's like for medicinal purposes, recreation, growing, like all the different uses.
Categories of stores.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's medical, adult, manufacturing, and testing.
And then I think there's a social one.
We should totally be testing.
Yeah.
Making so much money.
So in any case, we've kept it simple because, in terms of the ORC, if we get 400 people saying absolutely no on all of them, don't want to waste our time putting together a complicated ordinance. But also, for those who do want those things, it gives us some direction on which parts to include or which parts not to. So that's that, and then also with that letter, there's gonna be a link to the comprehensive plan survey, because we figured it's mailing, we might as well take advantage of it for both purposes. So,
And we're hoping to have this together for the November general election,
yeah, definitely,
so that it can be on.
because we're looking for answers back by mid-August, so. And then we would draft.
I actually think I'd like to, this won't be popular, but I think we need to revisit this budget committee ordinance. It calls for 9 people. We struggle to get anybody to do it at all. I don't know, I personally would love to see it just go away, but, because it's not required by statute that we have one.
And it doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
And
so the budget committee was put into effect and voted into effect because this used to be, the town used to be run by a first selectman.
right.
So essentially, you have a town manager now doing what the first selectman used to do, and the select board is really the budget committee.
Yeah.
So by having a separate budget committee, it's kind of, by having the type of town management that we have now, it's really made the budget committee, as it's been trying to work, obsolete. It's just, it's not needed.
Well, and how many times a year do they meet anyway?
Just at budget time.
You don't have any power to do anything.
You
Like,
don't.
I got on the budget committee and I was like, I would like to meet with all of the departments and talk about increasing revenue. And I was like, pretty much shut down. They're like, no, that's not the role of the budget committee.
That's not your
The
job.
ordinance says that all you do is you review the budget items and vote of them up or down as an informational vote. So it's kind of
I
pointless.
guess I disagree. I was on the budget committee. I had no problem visiting departments, talking to managers, understanding their issues, and understanding what they get for revenue, what their expenses were. I felt that was the duty of the budget committee. And I didn't have any problem doing that.
But then what? Like, what do you do with that info?
At that point in time, the people looked at this. Selectmen wanted this, and the budget committee did this, and they listened a lot of times to the budget committee. But the budget committee was really doing some work.
I agree with Ed, in the past, the budget committee carried a lot of clout in this town. It just hasn't the last few years.
You can't get people to
Because you
yeah,
can't,
that's the
you
biggest problem,
just
is
can't
getting
get
people on it.
You can't get participation.
Well, I have a problem with it because they're supposed to be running for that seat. And I think that's part of why people don't listen to the budget committee anymore. They're supposed to be taking out their nomination papers and running for those seats. And they're not doing that, they're just sitting back and after nobody runs saying, hey, can you sign me up? I mean, it's hard to listen to someone who won't go get 25 signatures on a piece of paper. So you can put a check mark next to their name.
And you heard my story about that, didn't you? I was in town for some time and started coming to the meetings and got interested and met some friends. And after a while, they said, Ed, you need to run for the budget committee. I said, no, I don't want no part of this. We had an election. I got 7 votes. The town clerk called me and said, Ed, you want to run? You want to be there? You can decline. And I said, it's about time I got off my ass and understood where all the money is, where it's going. And I ended up serving and ended up in selectmen. So I understand the write-in, but you're right. You're right.
So Ed, these are the write-ins for the 3-year committee. This was all the people that there's 2 people that got 2 votes, 1 person that got 3 votes, everybody else got 1 vote.
Okay. And they all declined?
This is the next one for 2 years. That was 1 year, this was 3 years.
And the town clerk called them all and they
Well, you
declined.
can't, if they only have 1 vote, there's no plurality there, how do we decide who we're gonna call and who we're not?
State law there's a state law that tells you how you make that decision.
Well, there's a plurality here, some of them had 2, so we've called them and they said, thanks, but no thanks.
I understand.
I do think it's beneficial though, for anybody who wants to be a selectman, to go through that budget process. You know, like the first time I ran for selectman, I lost, and then I got on the budget committee and did that for a year, and attended all the committee meetings for a year, and then I knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Like that's, you can't make people do that, but it is a positive thing to do.
And one of the issues though, having a budget committee, not having people on it, is we can run into a legal problem here, because our ordinances say they have to go through the budget committee before it comes to the select board. And if somebody challenges us on that, it's a bit of a problem. At a minimum, if we don't want to do away with it, maybe we can look at cutting it from 9 members down to 5.
Yeah, 9 is a lot.
Just something for you guys to know.
That doesn't really solve our problem right now.
If I may, Sarah?
No, but you're not gonna solve it immediately anyways, because it is an ordinance, we'll have to go out with the voters to ask to repeal it or change it or whatever. That process, any ordinance change is gonna be a process. Has to go to the ORC, they have to do whatever changes, has to go to the planning board for a public hearing, and then they can bring it back to us beforehand. So, and that, those things take time.
Ed?
I always seem to think of the right thing to say too late, but I wanted to make some comments about the school discussion. When I first got into town here, I don't think I was in town for about 3 months or so, and the school budget was being discussed at the middle school, and the budget committee was involved. So we had the school board, the budget committee there, the place was packed. Everybody was interested in the school, and what you saw was the budget committee asking the decent questions. And you ended up saying, this is reasonable. And before the night was over, it was passed and it was done. And there was so many people involved and so many people excited about the schools. And the RSU thing has screwed that all up. Once the other towns got involved and they were making decisions for Wiscasset, things got pretty bitter. And from a taxpayer point of view, when we were in that RSU, our mill rate was about 16. And once we got out, it jumped to about 20. And here we are. Now, part of that is because the other towns were paying a good part of the revenue. But I understand the taxpayer question. But the taxpayer made that decision. And I spent 2 years trying to convince them they were going to see the tax increase. Mm-hmm. And they don't remember that.
I do.
But they made that decision. So I understand their complaints now, but that's the result of them voting that way.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think based on time, if we can come back to the budget committee
I'm just throwing it out there. Do you
No, I
guys
think it's worth further discussion, even if we just decided to maybe go down to 7 or 5 members, that might be.
something to make it so that we can at least have a consistent budget committee. Because I had to spend time all spring gathering enough people to do it, and I only ended up with 4. And we only have 2 that are elected now, and
How many currently on the board, on that committee?
2.
That's not what's on the website. It's like.
Yeah, that
Oh, the
probably hasn't-
website,
that-
no.
Okay, so
The
there's really only
website's never-
2
the
current
website's
members?
never up to
Yes,
date.
so
That's-
Bill
that's one of my
Maloney.
Out of 9?
Bill Maloney and Sharon Jakes, whatever, however you pronounce it. Because they each got, she actually got quite a few votes, so I think they each got 3 votes, so they got elected anyways. I think either one of them have taken out papers. I mean, I will fix the website and we'll put an ad out there for people to come and apply. I'll even try to put a link on there for DocuSign, so people can apply online.
If we could convince somebody.
You got a right to vote too.
For the budget committee?
Yes.
And if I was called.
Well, it's obvious.
You stop recording, right?
No, actually, no, it's still recording.
You're on film.
But if we could convince someone to join now, what's the process?
You just need to come in and fill out a committee application.
And then the board has to approve it?
Yes.
And the board approve it.
All right.
Ready to do that now?
You can borrow my computer if you want. Okay, did you wanna give us any updates on
Another
DOT?
No,
sorry.
so.
Hang on just a sec.
The cemetery ordinance, I'd like to see that, have that line added about no pets allowed in the cemetery by ordinance.
Do we have an ordinance, or I think that's just a policy?
I'm not sure.
Is it the cemetery covered in any of the ordinances?
I believe it's just covered as a
I think
policy.
so.
Because you can't enforce a no pets in there without an ordinance.
Right.
It's the cemetery thing is just a policy, it's not an ordinance.
I was actually thinking about bringing that up to the cemetery committee in terms of that and whether there were any other pieces that they felt like should be part of an ordinance.
So that makes it even easier to change, because the board can do that without having to go through the whole process, because it's a policy and not an ordinance.
But you can't enforce it.
You can't enforce it as a policy.
It's tough.
Yeah, because, the police drive by and see somebody walking their dog and it's defecating there and they walk.
What if the
But
dog is in there, but it doesn't go to the bathroom?
But that can be enforced. If they're defecating in the cemetery and they're not cleaning it up, that can be enforced. That's an ordinance.
But there are people that are complaining about dogs being in there at all. How many
and
complaints?
I've already-
No, seriously.
But that
they
needs
are.
to be something that the
Well,
committee
you're not allowed to have a
considers.
dog off the
Yeah, I think-
town, right?
Well, they
As long as
have,
it's got your voice command.
under voice command, they can be.
That's the state.
So
that's
they
the
run
state
in
law.
there and they lift their leg and they pee all over the headstones and people are offended by it.
Speaking of, there's a way to maintain those headstones, which is a cemetery.
Yes,
thing.
so I guess I would like to bring this before the cemetery committee and with that issue and any others that they feel are ones that need to be addressed by either a policy or an ordinance.
Yeah, if we left the fence up, they wouldn't be peeing on headstones.
All right, that's just a done deal, so I've been beat up
Okay.
enough on that, thank you.
We're getting into that.
All right, no,
We're
we're not even going there. All right, so updates from DOT situation.
Yeah, so the delineators went up anyways.
So now you just have to make it really wide.
Well, and that's basically all it is. So I've already been down there today. They're actually shorter than what I thought they were gonna be. So people going south on Route 1 to make a left turn on the pier are still gonna be able to.
Yep.
It's easy enough to do.
Either way, you could do it.
Because they didn't make them long enough to make it difficult for them.
Stupid. They just
So-
made it so you have to go diagonal. It's more dangerous.
Or if you make a left turn out of the pier to go south, people are gonna go down Route 1.
Exactly.
So it's just ridiculous.
Do we have any recourse for that or anything else where they just decide that,
Well, there's one thing I just want to say. The left-hand turn on Water Street is actually what the problem is. So you're not supposed to turn left. If you come over the bridge, there's a big sign, no left-hand turn. People are always turning left there, and that causes a backup.
Or going the other way, they're turning left on Railroad Avenue where they're not
Yeah,
supposed to.
so like, that's where they need to put their little sticks, not
Or
at the pier.
they're crossing the road at the railroad tracks instead of going up to the crosswalk and waiting for the light like they're
Well,
supposed
everyone
to.
can just take a deep breath and.
Well, and,
Like, it's
no,
not.
but the other
I don't
point
think
is,
it's gonna be a big deal, because people can still do what they were doing before.
it's just more dangerous.
Yeah,
Actually, I went down and talked to Dave Allen this morning. He was still supervising them as they were, he's one of the traffic engineers. And I asked him lots of questions, and I said, you know, when did you say you were going to be, when were you told to do this, is what I asked. And I wanted to know, when did you get the note from, was it Ernie that said?
No,
ask-
Steve Landry called me on Tuesday.
Tuesday is when they were told to get it done. So we never really had a role to play in this
No,
at all.
because I told him that we had a board meeting tonight and I would bring it up at the board.
Okay, well, yeah, but the little stanchions that are there right now, that's only 30 feet of 100 feet that they're putting in. So there won't be any slanting into.
Wait, they're putting in more?
Oh, yes.
I don't understand.
FYI, I mean, you know, they're.
It's not gonna help anything. It's going to make it worse. So if you come out of the pier and you wanna go left and go south on Route 1, now you're gonna have to go all the way back into Edgecombe. And you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna get to the end of the bridge and they're gonna make a U-turn right there, which is gonna cause problems.
And then they haven't solved the problem that they say is happening, because then you're gonna have more traffic coming from Edgecombe, because they just all went that way rather than coming
people are
out.
just gonna not go there,
And that's what's,
and then it's gonna hurt the businesses
that's
there.
what's gonna happen. People that wanna go onto the pier, either are not gonna go, or they're gonna go down to Railroad Avenue and park, and then they're gonna come back up Railroad Avenue, walk across the railroad tracks like they already are, or they'll go up, come around to Water Street, cycle the lights constantly. This is not the answer to the problem. The recourse, I don't know that we actually have one. I think we've been down this road before with DOT, and we're just gonna.
I know, I just feel like,
Attorneys.
I understand that Route 1 is their road, however, this impacts us more so than them. And there should be some recourse for a town, whether it's an ombudsman or, I don't know.
Amen.
They should have to at least let us have a conversation.
Well, and
Very
that was
least.
what I was told on Tuesday we
Yeah.
were gonna be allowed to do, but obviously
But I
that
mean, this-
decision was made before they even called.
This happens over and over. and
They've been
I-
annoyed with us for a long time because of the whole, like, we sued them.
Right,
Like, we
well,
sued
too
them.
bad. Get over it, you're a
And
government
before
entity.
we sued them, Ernie Martin, I was in this room and he talked about potentially putting a public restroom in at the parking lot. And then we filed a lawsuit against them, we signed on with the Wawanok guy. And like, that was it, like, all bets were off, like, they're not gonna play nice with us. We've been a big pain in their neck, cost them a bunch of extra money.
And it hasn't been great on our, I get what you're saying, but it's been pretty terrible on our side too.
But we don't have any power or.
But I'm saying there has to be a way for towns to have some recourse. I just, there
It
has
doesn't
to
make sense to me that they're putting up another 100 feet. Where?
No, the 100 feet is total.
Oh,
They
total.
put up 35 feet so far.
they're just making things worse, and the long lights are causing people to go on the red light, like coming out of Sarah's to take a left turn,
I have called them today about that because I've had numerous complaints on that today.
because it's so long and people think it's broken, and I don't blame them because it is so long.
And then, of course, you've got the mess over on the end of Route 27, which
Yeah.
July was the perfect time to start doing that.
All right, well, there's not much we
All I
can do
can
about that
tell,
tonight.
all I can tell you is I'm going to keep pounding on them about it because I think the businesses on the pier are going to suffer because of
Well,
this.
they're gonna.
Because people don't wanna
I
deal
did
with that.
ask-
They're just
I
not.
did ask about, you know, didn't know that they had done any study. No,
No.
the engineers just felt, I heard that word, I knew where they were going.
They watch it on the traffic cameras that they have on the poles. That's how they're making all their decisions.
Then I asked, what, you know, was there any consideration for, because you could, and I asked him, you could widen the road right there, make a turn lane.
that is a possibility, but he said they won't do it because it will cost money, but he said it was a possibility. So that, you know, it gives you something to angle with.
It's a possibility they will ask the town to fund.
Yeah, I don't wanna go there. And
What was item 4?
4 was the formation of an energy committee.
What was that all about?
Oh, the school, they did
Climate
their
club.
climate club thing.
Oh,
That was part of their presentation for us with the school doing an energy committee, and I actually am for it, but, because I have some things they could work on that I just can't get to.
I went looking for that non-binding resolution on the website, and I couldn't find it, so I'd really appreciate if somebody,
That might not be there, but I can.
if somebody could send it to me, I'd like to at least read it. I didn't get a chance when it was presented, and I'd like to at least read it and see what it's all about.
Probably put the energy committee up till school starts back up because the kids are all.
But that was a fallout from that presentation.
Correct.
Yeah.
There was
Yes.
a recording of it, maybe?
It was a Zoom thing, so yes.
Yeah.
There might be a recording.
But we also-
It was really good.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I was looking for a copy of the resolution.
I will get it to you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea to get it in place for the fall.
Yeah, when the kids come back.
All right, we already did hyper reading, ordinances, left turn, okay. Other items at the board's discretion.
One other thing.
Yes?
I talked to Dennis about this a few weeks ago, it's about another committee in the town, an archival digitization committee. They start working on the town's archives that are upstairs and getting them digitized and online.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And that's something we don't have, right?
That's
You're saying
something we
create
do
a
not
new.
have. I am currently doing that with the library's archives. What I found over the last year and a half with COVID having the building empty and having the building shut down and that room stayed shut the entire time, I was only able to open it this month. The number of people who want to get into the archives and look up information. So you can scan these documents, have them scanned and have the PDF turned into a searchable document and put them online. So all of this information is on there, and it would not be just for the public's benefit, but also for the people in this town office who are going upstairs digging through crap up in the attic, looking for that one set of minutes. Where the heck is it? June, July, August, was it 1998 or 1999? I mean, it's crazy. So, I think a committee who would work at, looking at where are the town's documents, what are the priorities on getting what scanned. Scanning them themselves are very fast. You could do them in bulk. You could, the minutes, the select board minutes of January or even the select board minutes of 2021 in full and get them all up in one set or whatever you do, each committee, but getting these things online so that people can get the information. That's gonna cut down your freedom of access requests. It's gonna cut down the staff time looking for information up in boxes in the attic or however they're stored. And it's going to make things just so much easier on everybody. So finding someone who would work on that committee, I would be more than happy to help train people on how to scan things, how to build meta tags, how to upload them online, and those kinds of things. I just think it's something we really need to start working for.
That's such a great project.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great project.
Yeah, I think it really
I
is.
think
As a
it's put that on our
researcher, I
selectmen's
can't tell you
agenda
how
if
much
you
I
want to form a
appreciate
committee.
that.
Exactly. How much time do you waste looking at the paper?
Oh, yeah.
I'm fine
You
with
know, it would
putting
be great if we could read, how many times have I wished I could read all of those, airport grant documents? I don't even know where they are.
Yeah.
There's like a little
Exactly.
box in my
So,
office
The
or something.
the ransom documents for cleanup of Mason Station, those are going out to bid now. It's 1,275 pages long.
Yeah, nobody wants to print that, like, it was so great, it was a
But
PDF.
if you can scan it, if it's a searchable PDF. you
Yeah.
look at the phrases you're looking for.
Scannable, that's the big
Scan
deal.
it and searchable.
Searchable is what I meant to
So,
say.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd
Yeah,
like to put it on
absolutely.
an agenda.
Yeah,
So-
I think that's a great
That's
idea. I think
huge.
we should just put it on an agenda and move it forward.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
I do have one
Love
more,
it.
Okay.
one more thing. Is there any interest in forming a broadband committee in town?
Isn't there a broadband for
So,
Seven Town
there's-
broadband, Carla?
I've been, she's called me several times in the last couple of days about doing this, in town. And what I've said, and why I haven't brought broadband up to you guys, because it's part of the what the ARPA funds can be used for, is one, we don't have a whole lot of ARPA funds to spend on it anyways. And two, the county's gonna be working on it, the state's gonna be working on it, and I don't know that we all need to be working on 10 different projects, so.
I thought there
Actually,
were
no,
funds
someone
for
who-
that. There were funds for that.
Yes, the state has money for that.
Yeah,
The state's setting up a whole agency just to work on
yeah,
broadband.
like Westport Island is getting matching funds.
And that's, okay.
It's hard for Wiscasset because Wiscasset's actually considered covered by broadband because of the amount of coverage that we do have. But there are pockets of town that really don't have it.
A lot of towns that doesn't have it.
Yeah.
So, I lost his first name, it's gonna kill me, but, Evan, I think it is, Gostowski. Okay, he's currently working with Yaroscata on their broadband issues, and he actually wrote and said, would Wiscasset be interested in?
She's actually talked to them.
Okay, she has, okay,
Carla
because,
knows just about everybody doing broadband stuff in the world.
She's got a good grasp on what's going on with broadband.
So why does she want us to create a separate committee in addition to her, like, 7-town coalition committee?
She just wants a committee in town to work on just Wiscasset.
Could just be part of comprehensive plan?
Well, and I mentioned that to her as well.
She's on it and she's doing a presentation
She actually, yeah, she
next
is,
week.
she said she was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So, I mean, something else, that's just something for you that you want. I don't wanna get too many committees because then,
Yeah.
you know, we're gonna
spend all your time.
be up to our eyebrows in committees and never get anything else done.
Alright, and then the last thing I wanted to mention was, I think I mentioned in this in passing to a couple of you, I'd like to start doing some office hours where I'm just gonna hang out in the town office meeting room if people wanna come and get out their concerns, questions, that sort of thing. In no way will this be a problem solving, like making promises, it's really a way for people to just have another outlet to come talk to us. So I just wanted to mention that, and basically I'll have a inventory list and I'll let the board know what those concerns are. I just think it might be another way to talk to us, particularly if people don't want to come to a select board meeting or something. And they just have something that they have on their minds.
In the past, and this is a different board and a different town manager, but in the past, the practice has always been that any people from the public who reach out directly to us, we usually refer them to the town manager, and the town manager is sort of the conduit for all information coming in, all information going to department heads, all information.
Yep,
Right?
so,
Just like a school board committee doesn't ever talk to like staff members at school.
Right.
yep, but part of this is I'd like to take some pressure off Dennis. I'm serious, particularly if people are angry. I would rather have them yell at me than have 10 of them yell at Dennis. And all of this would go to Dennis, obviously, but I guess I'm trying to help that because honestly, there have been some fairly inappropriate things going on in terms of people swearing, people yelling, and that's just not all right. And I don't want Dennis and his staff having to deal with that constantly.
I just don't know, it should be really clear that this is something that you, Sarah Whitfield, want to do, and it's not something that the Board of Selectmen or the chair is obligated to do, because, like, you can't create a precedent that every chair moving forward is gonna do this.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
No,
because
this is
the only difference between any other board member and the chair is that the chair runs the meetings.
That's right.
I'm just trying to make things more
I
transparent. and give people
support you,
another-
Sarah, and I will help you, and I will do office hours too,
Okay,
if that will be helpful.
But you wanna be careful now. You don't wanna be getting too many in here, and you're gonna start looking at illegal
No,
meetings.
at the same
No,
time.
I want to be very clear. I'm not looking to set a precedent. I'm not looking to put this in every chair now has to do this moving forward.
Yeah.
I want to make it very clear that I'm not going to be solving their problems on the spot. That's inappropriate. I'm not making promises. I'm here to listen and take in the concerns and share with the rest of the board and Dennis.
It's
Just a
just
quick
like a-
comment, if I may. I think that's a great idea, and when I was on the board, I struggle to try and find some time to do that because I want to give people the opportunity. But being on this side, I felt I always had the opportunity to go to the town manager, and he's the guy running the department. So if I have a problem with somebody in the waste treatment facility, I go to the town manager. That's his responsibility. And if I have a problem with something that involves the town as a whole, I come here to the selectmen's meeting, and I talk to all of you at once. And that's the way I ended up feeling.
But very few people do that.
Yeah.
Could you
that's-
record
And
these
they're leery about doing that.
No, I was gonna take notes. I guess I'm surprised, but I don't really understand.
Well, what if it's not you? Like, what if the next person who's chair is like,
Oh, no, I don't think it's a
Let's-
set, you're
What do you
really
mean?
concerned about it setting a precedent.
yeah,
When all it is
absolutely.
just.
It's like we haven't, it's, I just think we need to really consider it. What if I decide to come in and do office hours and I'm having a bad day and I tell people off? You know, like what, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think it's a precedent. I don't think
I
it's
don't
such a
understand how it would be a
Could
precedent.
we maybe discuss the problem you're trying to solve and maybe brainstorm some solutions before you go to that decision?
I mean, yeah, I just,
So,
I feel like this is as transparent as you can get.
Yeah, so Sarah, let me put it this way, this is not about you, okay? So
I know.
Okay, so you're a very straightforward person, you wanna come in and talk with people and all of that, that's great. But once you've done that as chairman, and it's specifically the chairman who's doing that, then future chairmans might decide that this is their purview, their responsibility, their little niche that's added, and it might grow from there as years go by. I mean, when you start doing something, you don't have to look at the first person and their integrity and what their intention was. You have to look at how 5 or 6 years from now or 10 years from now, that's going to metamorphosize into something else that could become a problem, not now, but down the road.
Well, I guess I would hope that future, well, one, people wouldn't elect people if they'd be concerned about it turning into a problem, and two, future boards wouldn't, sorry,
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
Mark.
but
I just
The
don't
problem
want.
people on boards.
they're, like, the board that I joined is a lot different than the board that's sitting here now, and I just, not to name names, but I can't even imagine some of my previous fellow board members holding office hours.
But how is that fair to
I mean,
this?
I know that they did, like, in garages around town, off the record, but I don't know.
But how is that fair to this board? Because maybe other people, it wouldn't be appropriate for them to do it, so we can't?
I think it's
We-
kind of
I'm just not sure if
confusing
it's
roles.
appropriate
I-
for
I-
us.
I think maybe I might have to agree with Dusty on this a little bit.
What do you
Yeah.
say?
It's
Confusing
What did you
confusing
say?
roles. It's confusing our roles.
Right.
We answer to
we have a
constituents
very-
who elected us.
We have a very clear, what's described in our documentation is very clear what our roles and how we're supposed to do it. To come in and do, sort of be Dennis's assistant is kind of
No.
being creative with what we're trying to do.
That's really not what I'm trying to do.
Can we get an opinion from MMA on
Yeah,
that?
I've been sitting here, I said,
Oh my God, forget it then. I can't
No, no,
believe this is
and I also
You-
think we need
You
to
seem to
have
be taking
the,
this personally.
I
You need to-
am.
You
It's
need to
not
stop.
personal.
No, it's not
It's not
personal.
I don't think it's the role of a select board member.
Then what is the role of a select board member if it's not to
Policy.
talk to people?
No, it's to
Set
sit here and
forms.
set
The
policy.
procedure, we go through the business of the
That is
town.
not the entire role of a select board person.
That is what we're.
You
that's what-
represent the people who voted for you.
We need that
The-
training.
The people of Wisconsin. What?
We need the training. We haven't, we need the
You need board
elected
training.
representative
We need,
training.
that's right.
I haven't had board training in 3 years, like I need a
Really?
refresher.
Yeah.
I haven't done it in 3 years by
And-
law. I'm
And
supposed to do
anybody
it.
who goes on the board new is supposed to go to board training.
Yeah.
I haven't had
You
board
got-
training in 3
That
years,
was
Have
so.
you
my
guys done
question
your
for
board?
item 9, because I wanted to know more, what training is available to us. that we
When
can-
was your last
Well,
board training?
Oh,
I
when I
gave
was
you
on
guys
the board
information
before.
on the
We should
newly
do-
Well,
elected
actually,
workshop
well, I
stuff
do
now.
select, yeah, not
But it's
select,
online.
I've done,
Okay.
I've done.
All right.
I mean, you have to do
I
it because
guess-
it's part of your COLA training.
I don't remember seeing that. Could you send that to me?
Yeah, I'll I thought we talked about that in your orientation.
I remember receiving a packet, but I remember it seeming to describe what form of government we have, but I don't remember there being anything I was supposed to do.
Well,
from
the whole
There
thing
is
is,
a thing you're supposed to do, and then you have
Nobody
a
sent me a
file.
packet. Like on the board.
Like when you do your board training, and then you give the paper, somewhere there's a file that's got my
There's a
paper.
yes,
Started
yes,
a
we have
couple
a
years
box for
ago.
everybody, yeah.
Freedom of information.
Okay, well, that's a separate issue that we should address.
Just to be clear, what you're bringing up and what you want to address is a valid problem, and I think we should have a discussion
Yeah.
about what's going on here. It needs a solution.
But I just think it's insane if what I said is not an option. I'm sorry, that's
It's a
just.
legal world, but it might not be, so we.
The people you represent should have access to you.
Agreed, yes.
But
That's
they do-
easy.
but
How
they
is
do-
that different than people emailing me? I don't
Then each of us
understand.
should be coming in and all doing office hours.
Because it's informal. When they contact you directly, it's informal.
So-
But even at established office hours, you're making a formal sort of.
I think it's formal when you put my email address out there publicly.
Well, that's.
Well, when anybody emails you at Selectman Whitfield,
Yeah.
then that's a public document,
Yes.
and it's recorded. But if you're like setting up office hours and sitting here meeting with people one-on-one, then I think you would need to. I think there's more to it. Not because I don't trust you, but because our role is official, and I don't think that, I mean, I love we talk to constituents.
How is this
But like,
different
we
though?
shouldn't respond to an email singularly. Like, if somebody emails me with a problem in town, I don't respond to them, I send it to Dennis.
Yeah, I usually write and say, thank you for writing.
Yeah, thank you.
town
I always,
manager.
I say thank you for reaching out, and I forwarded your thing to the town manager. It's not our place to speak for the town.
She's not speaking for the town.
We can't.
I don't see her speaking for the town. She's responding to some concern from one of her constituents.
And I'm not solving it. That to me, that's the big concern. If I said if somebody comes in here and says, well, I want this ordinance changed, and I say, all right, we'll do that, then that is completely wrong. That's inappropriate without the rest of the board. But that's not what I'm saying. I guess I don't see why can a state representative have meetings with constituents and I can't have office hours?
Well, what happens
For
if
that
I walk
reason, I
up?
would want training, because my understanding is we didn't do that, but maybe I don't understand what we do. I guess.
What happens if I walk up to Sarah on the street and ask her a question? You tell
Well,
me she can't answer me?
No, that's what Dusty said. That would be an informal.
Right,
Yeah.
and that does happen, and
But
then you
when you-
listen, and you say thank you, and I'll tell the town manager.
Okay, but Pam?
But there's a difference between that and formally saying, this one selectman's gonna come in and sit here, so you can approach this one person.
Yeah, because.
This is now your public contact. Don't send any emails, these are the select board office hours, and there will be a person in.
It's just another option. I'll just drop it because clearly it's not supported and it's too much of an issue. So
Well, wait,
I guess we'll have to
can't we
figure out
try
another way.
and figure it out
Well,
without?
No, it's clear that I don't, and that's fine. But
Sarah,
I
support you. I think that it's the right thing to do. It is being transparent. The way I understand things to work, we are not following some little outline that is, with the ink on the line saying, we can do this, we can do this. It says we're elected officials of this town. It's a proactive democratic way of acting.
I agree, but I will drop it. I will drop it.
No,
I'm
I was
sorry
like,
I brought
can
it
we
up.
learn more about it, like without being upset? Like, it's not personal, let's just learn more about it. My understanding is that there are liability issues with having this position, both personal and municipal. And I don't mean to upset you, I just think that maybe we can explore it more.
Wow.
Let me think on it.
Senators and representatives have office hours.
I'm just going by the training that I had 3 years ago, and that's all I can speak for, that none of you have had. Right, training that MMA provided, and maybe
Well-
it's wrong, maybe we don't need to provide it,
Things
because you
may have
have the
changed, but we
training,
should provide
I mean.
All right.
It's
I
been a
don't
long
want
time since I had the training.
to keep things things here, and I'm sorry I took it personal, but it was a important thing for me. Anything else?
So, Dennis, at one point you had set up some training with, who was it with, for board training on how boards work together and that kind of thing.
Oh, Craig
Craig
Freshly.
Freshly.
Yeah.
Is he the MMA guy?
He's not through MMA, he's a.
No, he does his own thing. The city of Augusta uses him for their retreats every year.
Well,
I
that's,
think we also just need to take board training. The online.
yeah, there's an MMA new elected official training.
Yeah.
And I think legally, we're supposed to do it every year or every 2 years. And when I did it, I remember I brought it up because I was on the board with some members who'd been on the board since 1972. And I was pretty certain that they hadn't been in training since 1972. And I made a big deal, and I don't know that anybody else went, but we should go. And they give you dinner, and they don't have to dress.
I just think it would be nice if we could arrange it, that we could all go together and do it as a group. Instead of doing it online and doing it, individually fitting it in when we can.
I agree.
It would be nice if we could go as a group and all have the same training at the same time.
What I was,
And then dinner.
And then that would open discussion while we're there and
then
then dinner. So, win-win. So I think that would be fun. I think it would be a great team builder.
I have wanted, I talked to Dennis before I even thought about doing this, and I asked him if there was a possibility for a retreat ever for a board.
Yes, we're going
Because
to do
that's one of the
that.
most important things we could do.
Right.
Yes, and we're going to.
Okay.
Oh, good,
So
thank you.
there is an elected officials workshop, August 18th.
Oh, really? Thank you.
That day. Taking my kids to lunch.
That's the first day of Schooner Fest.
Yeah, I know about that one.
It is an evening,
That's a Wednesday?
it's an evening meeting.
Is there another one?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm taking my son to Limestone.
I'm probably gonna be gone out of town during that time.
Wednesday
Let me
next
see if
week.
they have any others scheduled. That was the first one that popped up.
Or if there's 5 of us, can we get an MMA guy to come here?
It's online if you wanted to all get together.
Oh, that's
do it
good, fine.
online.
We could have a guy come, that's a great idea.
I don't know if that's a possibility or not. I will call them. It seems like I called and asked them that before, and they said no, because it's online and we offer it.
Yeah.
Wasn't there another thing that there was emergency training of some kind that we had to go through, Pam?
Yeah, we did the MEMA, main emergency, management program
Yeah.
training for who's supposed to, when the condo collapses on the beach,
The
who's
NIMS
supposed to answer the question.
Yeah, the NIMS training.
Or
And,
there's-
yeah, NIMS.
I'm glad you brought that up.
We did,
Okay.
yeah, I did NIMS training as well, but, MEMA did.
I think is that another mandatory training for elected officials?
I don't think it's mandatory.
I don't know if it is for elected officials, but I'm glad you brought it up. I'll have to look into it.
But I think that it's an excellent training because it's one of those things that tells you
Almost
when
like-
somebody asks a question, this is, who's the voice in town?
And I remember one
And in
emergency-
a town management, in a town manager form of, government, it's the town manager. Lucky you, Dennis.
And I remember one emergency in
I had
town with
way
the
more in-depth
snowstorms,
EMS.
and we took turns as selectmen on duty throughout the night over the fire department. You
Yes,
remember that?
Yeah, that's the one, that's one.
Because there was always somebody who had to be on hand.
And again, you get dinner.
So,
Wow.
Do you mind calling and
yeah, I will,
asking?
because beyond that, there's nothing scheduled.
All right, anything else?
No.
Can't actually vote, so we are
You're
adjourned.
Yeah. Cool. And now dinner. Haven't eaten yet.
I think the kitchen's not closed.
Water Street's open until, what day is it today? Yeah, till 9.
Yeah.
Huh?